This week's episode of I Was a Teenage Film Snob is not brought to you by a sponsor, just like always. I am still, however, collaborating with Tyler Hansen and Harley Bronwyn to support their upcoming fan film, Scream the Fan Favourite. If you would like to support their project, please visit the Indiegogo campaign, or you can also learn more about the project by listening to episode 28 of the podcast. As little as $5 can make a huge difference, so please give them a hand if you can. Enjoy the show. Welcome to I Was a Teenage Film Snob. I'm James Chalmers, your friendly neighborhood film snob, and this is the 30th episode of the show, which I only realized minutes before recording, to be honest. Whenever there's a milestone episode, there's only one guest we bring back. We don't bring lovely people from Hollywood. We don't bring my dad. We don't even bring my wife. We bring back the man who has plenty to say, and all of them interesting. Please welcome back to the show, Nick Owen.
James, happy dirty 30, my friend.
I know. We're just going to talk about porn for the next hour.
Top 5 pornos.
That's the dirtiest joke we've made on the show. It took 30 episodes. It is a absolute treat to have you back, sir.
It's great to be back. Thanks, as always, for having me on the show. And I must start this episode by commending you on your episode with Tyler and Harley from Scream.
Thank you.
Favorite. What a fantastic episode. Well done. You hosted it very well for having some new guests. So I can imagine there would have been a few nerves there. But it was a really fantastic episode, mate.
Thank you. You might have heard some shaking. My head, the table, everything I touched for the first couple of minutes, just absolute nerves and sounded like I was ridiculously out of breath. But it was a fun show. It was really great. I just used the word treat to describe having you on, but it was a real treat just to be able to speak to people in another country and in the industry that we all love and respect, and hear about some really passionate fans talk about their passion project. Don't worry, we'll be plugging it later in the show because they're still in the middle of a hefty crowdfunding campaign. It's Indiegogo. Go there now. Indiegogo, the Scream the Fan Favorite. Go give them some money.
And I'm curious, did speaking to some people who were kind of, putting their ideas into practice, did that get your juices flowing a little bit? Because obviously you've got a background in writing and script writing and things like that. And I was curious because I feel like for the last couple of years, that's probably been on the back burner while you've worked on the podcast and other things like that. But I was curious as to whether that kind of got you humming a little bit.
It did. I think whenever you talk with creative people or people who are actively trying to make something or follow their dream, it always does, pardon me, give you a bit of drive again. And, it did make me want to kind of pull out some of the old screenplays, dust them off and give them another turn. And then unfortunately reality set back in, and I had work and child who wouldn't sleep and things like that. But it did. And I'm hoping, I've got a bit of a break coming up. I might, put some pen to paper again and try and get some ideas out. But just really exciting to talk to people who are so excited about their art. That's it's always fun. I'm glad you enjoyed it. A lot of people did. It's now, I think, the second most listened to episode of the entire show. It's done very well, and our reach to the US has grown. Like before that episode, I had less than 1% of listeners in the US. I think it's jumped up to about 7% now, which is quite an increase if you think about it. So,
oh, nice. That's great. And so if you don't mind me asking, what's the most listened to episode?
It was, what's it called? Silence of the Gabs. I think it is the episode with Gabby, her first episode.
Oh, yeah.
Because she is and I mean this in the loveliest way possible, and I think she'd agree, a shameless self-promoter. She was telling everyone, she was like, my grandma listened to that episode. I was like, can you tell her to listen to all the episodes?
Yeah. I need to get a bit more ruthless with my social media campaign.
I would say that the last week and a half is the most aggressive I've been on Instagram ever. Like, I don't plug anything. Like, I don't plug my own show. I don't even use audio clips. Like, I had an episode with Josh come out like just a couple of days ago, and didn't pull any audio clips from the episode. But with their one, I was like, I need that Human Centipede clip. I need that Nev Campbell clip. I need to like promote things. I have to like, what's a song that uses the word scream in it? Like, and by like day 3, I'd run out of songs that had scream in it. So I had to like find other songs that were kind of topical. I was really like trying to make it
Yeah.
put the word out and stuff like that.
I feel like I must be close to having the most cumulative listens because I am surely the most frequent guest on your show.
Yeah, I would agree. You would probably have the highest numbers. I have the lowest. Although my last episode did well. The one where I talked about horror, I got more listens and all. But normally, like, I have the lowest numbers. I don't know. I don't know why. Probably because people are like, oh, hear him in his opinions every week anyway.
Yeah.
We don't want to hear a whole show dedicated to him, waxing poetic on the things he likes and telling us what to do. His guests are far more interesting than he is, which is fair. I don't disagree with that.
But yeah, it's been interesting to listen to the Halloween episodes and see like who's got some out there picks for their kind of like top favorites. And it's funny that there is a fair bit of crossover. I mean, mine will cross over a little bit with Tyler and Harley's, and yeah, it's just interesting. I'd be interested to get your take in like, are you seeing a varied amount of films, or is it like the ones you're expecting to see pop up in everyone's top fives?
None of the movies have surprised me. Josh had one that I'd never seen before, and I still haven't watched, called Screamers. I'd never heard of that one, so that was a fun pull. What I liked about Josh's list is there was some really old stuff in there. I mean, not really old, but like stuff from the 80s. Whereas Tyler and Harley's, for the most part, was a lot more recent. Now, everyone's kind of approached it differently. Like, I kind of set the task as, what are the movies that scared you the most? Because that way, most of the regulars on the show don't watch horror. So I do want to be like, what are your top 5 favorite horror films? Because they're like, well, I don't have any. But if you go with the approach of what scared you the most, everyone's seen movies that scared them. They might not even be horror films. So that's the way I kind of set the task, but I just kind of let everyone interpret it the way they want to. So Tyler and Harley, I actually even give them the same brief. I just said, just bring in your top 5 favorite horror films. Because I thought, considering the content of that show and the approach we were taking, that would make more sense to talk about, like, to kind of connect the dots between their passion and their passion project. Whereas with Josh, I was like, what kind of scared you? And he kind of took the approach of, well, they didn't necessarily scare me, but they sat with me, they unsettled me, which is what I was very in line with what I did. And what kind of happened with the episodes that was not deliberate was we ended kind of talking about what scares us the most. I'm like, oh, the common thread between these films is, like, for me, it was isolation and a lack of control. And I was like, oh, I guess those are the things I'm scared of. I never really thought about it, but I guess those are the things I'm scared of. So interesting that all those films have that in common, which has kind of been a fun, just like side part of it all, which has been good. And Josh's actually was the same. A lot of his was also isolation, which I think is pretty common for people. I think
I think so. I mean, I'm just looking at the list I've got written down here, and I mean that's a pretty common theme. I think mine is very much like based around like, and again, this will be revealed as I go through my list, but like, I think the unknown. Now I'm just looking at a trend in mine, and I think the unknown. I mean, I won't give any away because we'll go through them in a bit. But like, yeah, you'll see that there's definitely like, when you can hear noises in a dark kind of space. There's a lot of that in my list.
That I dealt with that literally last night. I was watching Halloween last night, the 2018 one. Because I've been trying to watch a horror movie a day for October, and I was doing really well, and then I got sleepy. So I missed a couple of days. But I was watching Halloween last night, and it's a good film. Like, it's not super scary, but like, it's effective. And I was lying there on the mattress because I was in the study last night. I was lying there on the mattress, and the door just started to tremble, like, just like. And the reason it was trembling is because what happens in our house, there's a draft where if one door opens or closes or gets slammed, all the doors will move, like just the way that the wind moves through the house. And what happens is Luna was like scratching at the gates and like pushing the air around, and that caused the door to tremble. And I was like, oh, this crazy dog. But I'll be honest, I turned all the lights on because like I'm 99.99% sure there is not a fictional serial killer in my house. But in the 0.01% chance there is,
Yeah.
I want to be prepared for him as I run around in my little undies and stuff.
Yeah.
Like
Did you have
anyone who
your?
approaches Michael Myers in their undies always dies. It's a
Well,
common
I was
thing.
going to say, did you have like a coat hanger ready to go?
Yeah, I was like, look, if you don't kill me, I'll fold and press your clothes and we'll get them hung nicely. Um, Before we jump into your list and talking about horror, so I want to talk to you about a little bit about horror. I thought we might do something that we really don't do on this show, and we haven't done since the past the remote days. But it's been a little bit of exciting news, and you're someone you're pretty much the only person I talk to about movie news. To be honest, most people don't care. Um, but a few exciting things dropped today, but also recently. First of all, Deadpool 3, Hugh Jackman returning as Wolverine is very, very cool.
First of all, world class announcement of that
Yeah.
on Ryan Reynolds' Instagram. That was sick to see, and that was just like put a big smile on my face for that day. Just like knowing that Hugh was coming back for like one last. Like I kind of felt like he had that in him. I don't know if that's just me or like it just kind of felt like Logan was so good
Yeah.
that like it kind of just felt like there's another one in there.
Well, I know that early on he was like disappointed that he couldn't do the Marvel ones because he was like, he was like, I remember there was a quote, he was like, I just want to see Wolverine interact with Tony Stark, which would have been an amazing interaction. And look, there's all these theories, and I don't really feed into the theories too much, but Secret Wars is coming up. They've announced it. Secret Wars is a multiverse story. There's no reason why Robert Downey Jr. couldn't come back, and why if Hugh Jackman comes to do one more movie in Deadpool, and he had the opportunity to also play with the Avengers, like surely, like why wouldn't you? I mean, like Patrick Stewart's come back as Professor X so many times.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? Like, why wouldn't you do one more? So that was really exciting. And then today we just had a bunch of stuff. I don't know which one's bigger. There's been a rumor for the last few days that Harrison Ford is going to be taking over the role of Thunderbolt Ross, who was played by William Hurt until he passed away. That was all rumors. It was confirmed today he is going to be replacing him. And lots of rumors that he's going to actually finally, after all this time, become the Red Hulk, which I never thought I'd have to say the sentence, Harrison Ford's going to play the Hulk, but I'm kind of there for it.
Yeah. I mean, I'll need you to explain what the Red Hulk is in the canon of Marvel, but that is sick. Like, I never thought I'd see the day where Harrison Ford, like, joined one of these massive superhero franchises that just has not seemed like his go, but it's pretty exciting to think of, like, getting someone of his stature in there.
Well, I guess, like, it's not really, and this is no disrespect to William Hurt or anyone else who's played the role, but it's not really a meaty role that requires much. You walk around in a suit and talk, and then when you do the Hulk, if he does end up hulking out, you just wear pajamas, like, and talk while wearing pajamas. Like, that's how far they've come along. So I don't see why not. I don't know too much about the Red Hulk other than he's kind of, I guess, a more aggressive and maybe, I don't think he's evil, but I think because he's played by like a military guy, he's very kind of like much a soldier. And so I think, but I don't know too much else. I could be completely wrong. And there are people listening right now and be like, "You're an idiot. Shut up." So I will. But to me, the biggest news of the day, and as excited as I was to hear Hugh Jackman's coming back, finally, after almost a decade, Man of Steel 2 is happening.
Yeah, that put a smile on my face, man, because I didn't know that was happening until you sent me that post on Instagram.
Yeah.
And just Henry Cavill, the man born to play the Man of Steel.
I kind of couldn't believe it. Although there's been a lot of heavy rumors that Henry Cavill does show up in Black Adam, which will be out in a couple of weeks. So and I think it's this whole new kind of changeover. Like, apparently now that at Warner Bros. Now that there's new studio heads, they're like, no, like we don't need to reboot. Like, all the pieces are there. Just do let's get everything back in order. So, like, there's obviously Wonder Woman 3 is on its way, but then apparently Gal Gadot or Patty Jenkins, one of them was like, I never said no more after 3. Like, everyone's assumed we're done with 3. was like, oh well, that's cool. And then obviously Affleck's back as Batman and Aquaman. They've just announced a Flash sequel, so even I guess like their Ezra Miller stuff must be tying up somehow, or they'll recast. I'm not sure, but I'm like, oh, well, the DC universe is kind of getting legs again because we haven't had a DC movie. Like when was like we had Batman this year, the Batman. But before that, when was the last movie? Was it Birds of Prey? Suicide Squad. Suicide Squad.
Yeah, but I don't know. I suppose that is in the DC universe, but I'm the last kind of like legitimate film of that era for me is like probably, I don't know, the Aquaman solo film. That kind of feels like the last one of the Snyder universe, really. I don't know. Was there anything more recent than that?
I think Suicide Squad does count because then they had Peacemaker and spoilers for a year-old show. Ezra Miller and Jason Momoa showed up as Aquaman and Flash in that show.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But again, like the franchise just kind of lost momentum, didn't it?
It did, and I'm not like those people on the internet, and I swear we're going to get to the topic soon. But I just want to talk about it because I have no one talked about this sort of stuff. I told Zena that about Man of Steel too, and she's like, "Oh, okay," which is a fair response. You know, she's not into the stuff the way I am. But yeah, I never got like kind of like sour or like sad about like, oh, they don't know what they're doing. Like people online, like it is what it is. They're making business decisions. If the money's not green, like why are they going to keep cashing checks? Like it makes sense. From a business point of view. But to hear that they're going to give it another crack and the people are trying to make it work is really is really wonderful. Like because I know that those movies have been divisive, but I think that especially that trilogy, like Zack Snyder's trilogy, is some of the kind of like most epic and visionary versions of those characters. Like Man of Steel is. I think I like Man of Steel more than Batman v Superman. Like I love Batman v Superman, but Man of Steel is so good.
Oh, that is a hot take, my friend.
It's
I mean,
so
don't get me
good.
wrong. I love that film.
I go back and forth on them because they're both great. Like it's they're both wonderful. I think like in terms of I think where again like and I don't know because I flip and flop all the time. I think where Man of Steel has the edge is I like the final villain story more. Like BBS, like Doomsday, like I don't have anywhere near as many problems with Doomsday as most people do, but it is a bit kind of CGI heavy and stuff. Whereas Superman versus Zod is very
yeah,
personal.
I can see the argument because I think Michael Shannon is a great villain.
Well, that's the other thing.
Think,
and
like,
he's meant to be in this Flash movie. Apparently, he's back as Zod in Flash.
That's cool. And I think Kevin Costner is a great Jonathan Kent, and Rusty Crowe was a great Jor-El. So I could see the argument. But I just like, I mean,
but then you got Ben Affleck as Batman, and he's so good.
Yeah, but like that, like maybe I could hear Man of Steel over the theatrical release of Batman vs Superman.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely.
Didn't we rank a little while ago at just our top 5 superhero films, or like
we haven't done superhero films yet. We did Batman films.
Okay.
And because I had the controversial listing of Dark Knight in 4th place, and you you lost your mind.
Yeah, I lost my marbles, didn't I? Yeah, but I think if we were to rank our just like our top 5, I don't know why it's always 5, but there you go. Top 5
Batman
films.
we did 10 and went for 3 hours, so that's why we do 5.
That was just boys talking bats, man. Nothing to see here. Move along. But like that Ultimate Edition of Dawn of Justice was that would probably be my, and I'm including every Marvel film in that as well. Is just top notcho.
It's great. It's really good. I hope they bring. I hope Snyder comes back. I hope they let him do Man of Steel too. I hope they let the guy do whatever he wants. Like I know he's divisive, but he makes a good movie.
Yeah.
And like I know that you didn't have the same, I guess, adoration for Zack Snyder's Justice League as I did. And I know you didn't hate it. You were just like, I thought there was going to be more involved. That to me is a stunning film. Like every sequence is pitch perfect. Like it doesn't feel like 4 hours to me. It's like that. I remember when I watched it for the first time, every time something new popped up, something that had been cut previously, I was like, well, why did they cut this? That makes no sense. Like the whole Amazon, like Steppenwolf's attack on the Amazons and stuff. I'm like, why did they cut this? This is brilliant. Why did they give him that goofy armor? This armor looks great. Like Steppenwolf is sympathetic as well as brutal in this movie. Like the whole opening with Diana saving the children, like it's very similar, just a bit more violent. Like and a little bit darker, like through that Zack Snyder lens. Like the whole Flash sequence at the end where he undoes time, like is yeah. Anyway, this is not a Zack Snyder episode.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about Man of Steel too, because I was just like, that's that made me happy. I was just like, you know what, that's cool. I'm glad that they finally figured this stuff out. It shouldn't have taken 10 years to get another Superman movie. He's not that difficult a character to write for.
Yeah, and I think as well, like there's an opening here for them to get back into the market, because I think that Marvel's probably about to recapture everyone's imagination with this new direction. The Secret Wars, and like we've spoken a few times on the podcast about, like I've been pretty vocal about, like, look, I just haven't engaged with the past like 3 or 4 films. It's like I've enjoyed them individually, but I've struggled to tie it together and see where they're going. And there's definitely I didn't think DC would kind of be able to crack back into that market, because they just sort of lost so much ground. But I think there's a chance. There's now's definitely the time to do it.
Yeah. Well, I think I don't know if they've. I think it was an announcement. I'm not sure, but Marvel recently said something which I think is the right move, where they're not. That's unlikely they're going to move forward with TV shows again. I think they're going to stop the TV shows, and they're going to do more kind of like special, like 1 hour specials. So that Werewolf by Night, which I haven't watched yet, but people are enjoying quite a bit. Their approach is like, look, we're going to introduce a new character that's significant, but not quite maybe ready to headline a movie. We'll do an hour special on Disney Plus instead, which I think is the right move, because I've liked all the shows, but and this is not a criticism of the show. I've just felt no draw to then go back and rewatch them, with the exception of WandaVision, which I loved. I do want to go back and watch that, but like I love Falcon and Winter Soldier. It's 6 hours of like political thriller. I don't know if I need to go back to that anytime soon. Loki, people loved. I don't dislike Loki, but it was probably my least favorite. Probably the only show that I would go back to, actually, with the exception of WandaVision, is Hawkeye. I loved Hawkeye.
Yes, agreed. We've spoken about this before, just like how surprising
like it should not have been as good as it was. It was brilliant. It was really, really good.
I think that just shows, to me, that's just a little microcosm of like what we're craving, which is like those familiar stories of, like, it almost felt like a season of Daredevil. And I know it's because Wilson Fisk kind of showed up in it, but like, set in New York. It felt very grounded.
Yes, absolutely.
And I've struggled to really engage. I think I'm behind on a lot of the Marvel shows. Like, haven't watched She-Hulk.
I just finished it the other night. I didn't have anywhere near as many. Like, I know it's just popular to beat on the thing that everyone else is kind of stacking on. Like, I didn't have anywhere near as many problems. Like, yeah, the CGI is a bit rough, but I don't know. Like, it's a She-Hulk. Like, it's always going to look a little bit, especially on a TV budget as opposed to a movie budget. I thought the first episode, maybe tried to push the humor a bit too hard, but I think they kind of found their way, and there were plenty of jokes that landed. I was disappointed only in it that it took so long for Daredevil to show up, because and I don't think it was ever announced, but it was heavily hinted that Daredevil was going to be in approximately 5 episodes. He's in 2, and he shows up. He doesn't appear till the second last one. But when he shows up, he's great. Like, you get to see Matt Murdock be a lawyer, and it's wonderful. You get to see him be a little bit funnier, and it's not cringy. Like, it's because I know when they take the idea of taking a serious character and trying to make them funny can have mixed results. I thought it was very charming. Like, I thought it was very good, and they used some CGI, I think, to kind of improve some of his acrobatics and stuff like that, because he moves in the show way better than he moves in the Daredevil Netflix series. And like the finale, is very meta and very unusual, and a lot of people didn't like that. And Tina didn't like the show. She kind of found it a bit of a chore, which is fine. Like it wasn't her thing. But we're talking about the finale. She's like, "What did you think?" I'm like, "Well, Daredevil showed up, so I was happy." Like I was like, that's all it takes for me. Like he's my favorite character. Like and they're saying that Daredevil's gonna be kind of the connective tissue moving forward for like the more street level characters, which is great. Like just put him in everything. He's my favorite character. This is my favorite version of the character. Give me more of that.
I'd love to know if any of the other defenders are going to make cameos.
Rumors are. I don't think it's even rumors. I'm pretty sure Kristen Ritter was due to return in the Daredevil show, but I think there's a scheduling conflict, so now there's talks that Punisher's going to show up instead. But there's that Echo show. Apparently, like Echo's a Daredevil villain, or kind of like they start off as villains and then kind of end up working together in the book. So there'll be some crossover there. There are a few people coming back, so hopefully we'll get a lot of them. I know Finn Jones has been talking. He's like, "I'll come back as Iron Fist," and I know that there's been less kind of rumors about that happening, but I don't mind. Like he got a bad rap. Like I don't think he's that bad in that show. That show is nowhere near as unwatchable as people say it is.
No, I didn't mind it actually. Like I actually thought it was pretty good. I just think he's probably the weakest of the four characters.
I think one of the problems is, especially at the time of that show, and it won't age. It won't age any better. Like where it is right now, like where it launches, the best was going to age. Is that you had a really rich white guy complaining like about stuff, and like about how unfair life was, and I was just like, oh, that's difficult. Let's change gears and talk about horror. That's what Halloween month. I'm a huge fan of horror movies. I'm a huge fan of Halloween. October is a very exciting time of year for me. Even though I can watch horror movies whenever I want, I like to, like a lot of horror fans, I'd like to embrace the ride and jump into it. Where are you on horror? We don't really talk about scary movies very often, but
no, and there's probably a good reason for that. So it's definitely not something I was into as a younger film viewer. I think I was very easily frightened, and so just didn't hold my interest. And I think that you probably have a lot to do with a lot of the films I've seen more recently, just through talking about them on our old podcast, and I guess hearing you get excited about a certain film or like a moment in a film. I'm like, yeah, actually, I do want to check that out, and I've come to really enjoy a lot of horror films. I still probably wouldn't say it's my genre, but I think Tyler might have mentioned a similar point last week, if I'm remembering correctly. But like, there's I have a similar thing where like just sometimes I just want to be overwhelmed. I just want to sit back and like have the shit scared out of me, and it doesn't happen very often, but sometimes it's definitely something I crave. So
they spoke so eloquently. Like that was a really good moment, and I think Harley spoke about horror in the most beautiful way I've ever heard anyone speak about, where she just talked about like the beauty of grief and trauma, and like to be able to like take those really sense. I'm like, yeah, like that. Like the way I talk about horror is like is the way a butcher talks about things, but you've really sold it in such a lovely way. And I think I mentioned on Josh's episode as well. Like she's going to get props for the next few episodes because no one has come close to describing horror the way that I want to. But that was brilliant. What I love about the horror genre is it's so versatile as well, or versatile. If you want to pronounce words correctly.
Look, I was going to let that go, man.
Yeah, I had to. I would have hated myself, and I do a little bit. I wish I had said that. And even though I can edit it out, I won't because that would require.
That's because you keep it real.
Keep it real. It's such a versatile genre. Like I think it is the genre that has more subgenres than any other genre. I was trying to say that word again, but that's where like horror. You've got your slashers, you've got your haunted house movies, ghosts, monsters, serial killers,
home invasion,
thrillers, horror comedies, zombies. Like there's so many different ways it can go. So there really is. There's something for everyone, and I feel like it's one of those. I've talked about it a few times how it's a genre that's not looked upon kindly by critics and snooty people, but it has more to offer than any other one. Like there really is something for everyone, and there's no reason why someone can't sit down. And I use Tina as an example for this all the time because she doesn't particularly like horror. And last year I said to her, like, let's just sit down. I'll curate a list for you, and you pick from that list, and I guarantee you'll be able to enjoy anything I pick for you, and you'll probably even like some of it. And I think she liked 2 of the 3. I don't think she loved Scream 4, but she was like, she was annoyed by the dumb decisions made by the characters, but she was like, oh yeah, that's totally watchable. And same with the other 2 I picked as well, because I know her. But so I think, if people just give it a go, like there's stuff to be found to enjoy in all of them.
Yeah, and I think that, like, you're right in the sense that it's probably not as well respected as it should be, because I think the level of skill required to pull off like a tense ending, it's a genre that probably doesn't have too many tricks, like in the sense that, like, there's only so many ways you can scare people on screen. And I think the skill to pull that off after, we've had sort of 40 good solid years of horror films at least. It's pretty impressive. Like, I think about, like, in my list, there's a few that are more modern, and like they are right at the pointy end of the list as well. So,
and I think also, like, horror films, you're absolutely right. I think there's a lot more to scaring people than people think. I think 2 of the hardest things to do in film or in any form of storytelling is making people laugh and scaring people. I think those are 2 of the hardest things to do. Making people cry, I can't really comment on because I cry at everything. I watched Clerks 3 the other night and I bawled my eyes out, and I even was talking to Tina about it the other night. I was like, what's the percentage of you watching this movie? And she was like, maybe 1%. I was like, that's what I thought. But she's in the first 2, so I didn't want to spoil it for her in the off chance you didn't want to watch it. I was like, well, I need to talk to you about this film because I found it to be quite traumatic. I said, so I'm going to talk about it to you just so I can get it off my chest. And as I was explaining the story to her, I almost cried retelling the story of, like, the film. I was just like, oh my god, which is just a very long way of me saying that I cry easily. So I don't think it's as challenging to make someone cry as it is to scare them or make them laugh. Yeah, sorry, got on a tangent there, which happens.
Answer Merchant.
I'm so glad that you watched that movie. That's one of my favorite things that happened this year. And now 2 and 3 are both out, so you can check them. You can check them both out. But 3 had a profound effect on me, and I'll talk about it with you once you've seen it.
Yeah, now I want to watch it. See, this is what you do. You say something like that, and I'm like, maybe I better go watch that.
Yeah, you can't watch 3 without 2, and 2 is wonderful. Like, 2 is so good.
Yeah.
They're all good. I like them all.
But before I get started on my list, I thought I'd bring something new to the table.
Do it.
So I thought I'd bring my top 5 rules for surviving a horror movie.
Oh, I like this.
And this is not as the viewer. This is if you're in the horror movie.
Is this so is this very much like the Scream thing where Randy kind of says this is what you have to do to survive a horror film? Or is this...
Yeah, pretty much, although this is just based on my own observations.
Yeah, go for it.
You let me know if you agree, disagree, or feel a rule needs amendment.
Well, I mean, and Tyler would be able to tell us this better than anyone, but with the Scream films, the rules change as new genres and new generations come through. But I'm keen to hear your rules and see if they apply.
Okay, all right. First rule: as soon as you get a sense something is wrong, run to a well-lit public place.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Like, the amount of films I see where they're like, no, we're going to stay in this dark, fucking derelict building and just wander around.
Do you watch Community? I never remember if you watched Community.
Yeah.
So do you remember that episode where they're telling spooky stories to each other and Abed's just like, here's my radio with batteries that are fully charged. Now let's stand back to back facing all the doors with knives until the police come.
Yeah.
Like
that's basically the North Star of my rules for surviving. That's exactly what. In fact, rule number 2, get the sharpest knife in the kitchen, then go into a room with one entry point and stand in the corner until the morning. Okay,
like
rule number 3 is an obvious one. I don't know why they don't abide by it more often. In fact, I'd say 100% of movies do not abide by this rule. stick together at all times.
Mm.
All right. Rule number 4. Do not go into a cupboard or wardrobe that has those wooden slats that you can see through. This is a particular horror movie trope.
It is. It's a very common one. Yeah.
You know that whoever's going to be hunting you will come and look in the through those slats, walk off camera, and then attack you.
Generally from the room next door through the other. Yeah.
That's right. That's
a very Michael Myers thing. Yeah.
And then rule number 5, simply don't. Just don't do anything. Don't do anything that you think you should do in a horror movie. Do the opposite.
Those are some pretty great rules. I love the first one. And I think you've highlighted a very missed opportunity. Like, why do we not see more horror in daylight where there are groups of people? Like, we expect the killer or the monster to be hiding in the shadows, but if someone just runs out in broad daylight and starts hacking people to bits in front of everyone, that's horrifying.
Yeah, that's
like,
right.
That's really terrifying. Like, we've first time in 40 years, we've missed a trick there. I've just given away the next step. But if you showed me that, I'd be like, that's terrifying. I came up with another idea for a horror film, which I'm giving away. And if studios want to contact me, I'm reachable. But have you ever watched the Purge films?
Yeah, I mean, just the first one. I've never gone past that.
2 is really good. I like 2 quite a bit. I liked it more than 1. 2 is I found to be a lot more enjoyable because they got out of the house and it was more of a survival horror film. Here's my pitch for a Purge film. So it's specifically that franchise, but I think it'd be really interesting to do. And people will hate it the way they're hating these Halloween films because it's not a horror film, but I think this is the way you do it. The movie starts the day after the Purge, and you have your character. I don't really mind what gender they are, but they lost someone close to them in the Purge, and so they're spending the next year preparing to find the person that killed them. They're training. They're like, I have to get my revenge, but I can't do it till next year's Purge. And then we kind of like jump around to other characters and kind of them kind of coping with the trauma and loss as well. And then we have kind of like a love story happen between a girl and a guy. And it's not until the next Purge happens, or just before the next Purge happens, they realize that one of them is responsible for the death of the other person in their family. And then that's your movie.
Yeah, love it. I love that.
Yeah, that's it was very simple explanation of the premise. But to me, I'm like, that's kind of, it might be a bit predictable, but I'm like, we never see the aftermath. Aftermath is really interesting. That's why I loved Halloween Kills when everyone else hated it. If you haven't seen Halloween Kills, basically it starts 2 minutes after the previous film finished, and it's just the majority of it is a family dealing with the town dealing with the trauma of losing people to Michael Myers. It's like, that's really interesting to me. Like, I don't need it to be the same story over and over again. Show me something different. Show me something that is going to change the genre. So I think it's a really misunderstood film.
Is Halloween Kills
the
set
second
after?
One.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, okay, I haven't seen that. So because
that was last year's one.
Oh, okay. So is that the most recent? So the last Halloween film I saw was the one where it had Jamie Lee Curtis back, and she had, I don't know if they'd revised the canon of it, but like she'd been sort of training for all these years for his return.
So that was the one that came out in 2018, and then Halloween Kills came out last year.
Okay.
I think it was meant to come out earlier, but COVID delayed it. And then the one that's just come out, Halloween Ends, is the third in that trilogy, but the fourth in the overall arc, because their storyline is kind of like, it started in 1978, and then nothing happened until 2018. They ignore all the other sequels. But I liked Kills. I talked about this a bit with Harley and Tyler as well, because I know they had some mixed feelings on it. I was like, well, this is my theory on it, and I've shared that theory with a lot of people, and people are like, oh, that's a pretty strong theory, but I still don't like it. And I'm like, fair enough, that's fine.
Yeah.
Not everyone, succumbs to the whims of my fancy. Like, if I say things, you'll be like, oh, I'll check that out. And most people are like, shut up. Which is fine. I'm not saying Tyler and Harley said shut up. They were lovely. I've got to keep the bond strong there. Let's jump into your list. I'm really keen to hear what's on it, because I don't know you as much of a horror fan, and I know you mentioned you've gotten into it more recently. but I'm really keen. So did you go movies that scared you most, or this is your favorites, or what?
No, this is my top 5 scariest films, scariest horror films.
Hopefully, I've seen all of them. If I haven't, that's okay because I'll have things to watch.
I think there's one sort of deep-ish cut on there, but I think you probably will have seen it. I'm just interested. Do you think you could peg any of my top 5, or are you completely in the dark?
Well, you did give me the clue both on mic and off mic that there's some crossover between the list you heard last year. So without kind of like confirming anything, I feel like there's going to be a James Wan film on there, whether it's Insidious or Conjuring. He makes some pretty creepy movies, and I think there'll be a James Wan film on there. But that's okay. I won't go any deeper than that because I don't want to give it away.
All right. Well, I'll start at number 5. Okay.
Numero 5.
That's right. Oh, and also I should also say I was a bit disappointed that neither of your guests knew when you get to your second film that there's a specific phrase that you use, as in who does number 2 work for? Obviously that hasn't crossed the pond.
Oh, I forgot about that. But I am sleep deprived. Alrighty.
Anyway, number 5 is The Strangers.
What a film.
Now, this is on my list for... it's not there for its jump scares. It's not there for some, like, creature or even the gore in particular. This is the...
Please tell me it's the last line of the film.
Oh, yes, it is. That's exactly why it's in there. The last line of the film James is referring to is when Liv Tyler says, "Why are you doing this to us?" And they say, "Because you were home."
Yeah. Oh, my God, it's so scary.
Which to me is so terrifying. And this is so... it actually starts with some text on the screen that says it's based on a true story. And I guess you never know how true that's going to be. But just how realistic this is and how much this could happen. I guess brief synopsis is... Liv Tyler and Scott Speedman, who I don't really know from anything
Underworld
else.
Scott Speedman.
There you go. So they are a couple and they go to a sort of country cottage after a wedding late at night, and there's a knock at the door, and it's just this random blonde girl, and she's asking if someone's home who's not there. And then from there, the blonde girl and another couple of teenagers just start messing with them, and it gets scary from there.
Yeah, I got to stop recording these episodes at night because I recorded my list with Tina, and by the end I had to stop telling her like the films because she was getting scared. I was starting to get scared as well. You're right though; it's the reality of it. It's like this could and does happen.
Yeah,
and like granted, most of them don't wear kooky masks and stuff, and that's the only bit of, I guess, like fiction in there. But it's it's a scary one.
Yeah, and I think like I've sort of noted down in each of my lists like what I felt the scariest scene was, and this is not so much a sequence where there's any sort of action or there's not so much of a jump scare, but there's a particular shot where Liv Tyler is just starting to understand that something's not right, and they've obviously found a way into the house, and she's standing in the foreground of the shot, and in the background there's like a dark hallway, and you just see the guy with his sack mask just sort of step ever so slightly into the light and just watch her, and then just like step back into the darkness. And it is honestly, I've remembered that shot since I saw this movie 15 years ago.
Yeah, that is one of the most iconic shots, and kind of replicated by Matt Reeves in the Batman this year. Because that's what I thought when we were in the cinema, and the Riddler steps out of the shadows for the first time. I was like, "Oh, this is the Strangers! Like this is the Strangers! Like this is what he's done." Which is not a rip-off. It's a wonderful amount, if it's even meant to be that. But that's what I thought of immediately. That shot is terrifying. Just the idea of that somehow someone got into your home, like your sanctuary, the one place you can feel safe. And again, you use the terrifying word teenagers. Like, There's a movie I've referenced a few times called Eden Lake. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's a horror film starring Michael Fassbender, one of his first roles. And it's just, did you ever watch Skins?
Yes, I did.
Do you remember Cook from Skins?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he plays like the ringleader of like this like kind of derelict band of hoodies or whatever from the UK.
Is that Jack O'Connell?
Yeah, Jack. I couldn't remember his name when I was talking about it last time, but yeah, Jack O'Connell, wonderful actor, really, really wonderful actor. But yeah, he leads this group of like degenerate teenagers, and oof, if you weren't scared of teenagers before that movie, but it's great. Like it's a really, really wonderful film. But
and a surprising example of the main characters in this film do actually follow one of my rules, which is they actually get a shotgun and go hide in the bedroom, which only has one entrance point, but doesn't quite work out for them in the end.
I haven't seen it in a while. I bought it recently, but I haven't had the stomach to put it back on. But I do want to watch it again in the daylight when I get a chance. But it's really. I remember my big takeaway from it was just really unsettling. It was just kind of got under your skin. You're like, oh.
Yeah, I think the lack of rationale as to why it's happening plays a big part in how unsettling this film is. It's just like because they were home.
Yeah,
the reason.
What an upsetting line.
Yeah,
it's such an effective line. But yeah. I don't really have much more to say on it, but other than you're absolutely right, it's terrifying. That's a good pick. But it's a great film. Like it's a great film, but it is it will definitely get under your skin.
Yeah, it will. So yeah, that was my fifth. So moving on to number 4 is the 2006 adaptation from a video game of Silent Hill.
Whoa, what a movie.
So possibly the deepest cut on my list. So I don't really know too many people who have seen and continue to talk about this film, but I actually saw this at the cinema.
Me too.
And it was so scary, I probably almost shit my pants. So, I mean, brief synopsis for those who, I mean, I don't know, is the game, you might know this better than me, is the game widely renowned and popular? I've never played it.
It is. So. It's a big one. It's considered, I mean, I don't know how it stands today, but at the time it was considered one of the scariest video games of all time. I've only played a couple of the games, maybe only one of them, but I'm not big on horror games. To me, if done effectively, are scarier than horror films because you get immersed into it. So I haven't played too much of it, but I just love the imagery of Silent Hill because it's so weird, and the idea that like the flesh of the town peels away when the alarm when the klaxon goes off.
Yeah, the siren goes off. Yeah,
that was Silent Hill was the second movie I ever saw by myself.
Oh, geez, man, that's rough going.
I can still remember I was catching the bus home from school. I was in year 12, and I'd finished up early for the day, and I was on the bus with a friend of mine, and he was like, "Oh, what are you going to do now?" And I don't know why he caught the bus as far as he did, because I lived further away than he did, and he was going towards my bus stop. I don't know what he was doing there. I can't remember. But I was like, well, I'm going to go see Silent Hill because it's out. And so I can come if you want. I was like, I mean, if you want, but I'm kind of just doing my own thing. And I managed to like discourage him from going with me because I didn't want to. I just knew he was going to be a movie talker. So I was like, I just want to go and see it by myself. And I remember like being one of like 6 people in the theater, like gleefully eating popcorn as that woman gets torn apart by razor wire. Like,
yes. Yeah.
Spoilers.
This beautiful mix of, there's a bit of The Shining in there. There's a bit of like, I don't know, Thing. Like it's just this great mix of a lot of different movies. But yeah, so I mean, again, brief synopsis for those who haven't seen the film. So Radha Mitchell and Sean Bean, whose characters I cannot remember the names, adopt a daughter, and she has a problem with sleepwalking, and she has these dreams of the town Silent Hill. And Radha Mitchell's character basically takes her to Silent Hill to see if they can kind of solve whatever's ailing their daughter. And they get into a car crash, and when she wakes up, the daughter's missing, and so she basically has to go into this abandoned town of Silent Hill to find her. And I think in terms of scariest scene, I'm not sure if you remember this, James, but the scene where she basically has to go like underground into the alternate reality to sort of find her, and this is just pure fear coming out of the screen, just like creatures coming out of dark hallways. Like, yeah,
Mm.
I don't know.
There's some
really terrifying.
really iconic moments in that movie. And I watched it recently. I would say in the last 2 years I watched it, and it's aged a little bit, like especially some of the CG and stuff, but it's still really well. I mean, still really well done. But there's some really iconic scenes. I think of, obviously, as I mentioned, the woman getting torn apart by razor wires, which is brutal. The nurses, obviously, is such an iconic part of that franchise. Like, everyone knows, like, the weird, sexy nurses. There's like is it the old woman in the crib or something? There's like a
Yeah. I mean, I could be honest. This is not one I've seen, in the last few years. So the specifics will get me. But
I think it's the burnt woman in the crib. Like, there's like a hospital bed and she's burnt. The pyramid head picking someone up and tearing their skin right off, right before they get into the church. And then, of course, the ending again. Like, talk about like creepy endings where they're still technically in Silent Hill because they're in the same house as Sean Bean at the same time, but they can't see it. Like,
yeah, that's right. They're in the alternate reality.
yeah, that's
yeah, it's a brutal ending, isn't it? And I think as well, like you touched on it before, but like the iconic like klaxon or siren that go off, and it's kind of like signals that things are about to change. And I don't know what the sort of terminology is, but like the dark universe is about to take over is like so scary.
Yeah.
And I think, like, again, this is one where, like, having seen it in the cinema, like, I reckon that's, even though it's at 4 on my list, it's probably in like the top 2 times I've ever been, like, the scaredest I've ever been while watching a film.
Yeah, absolutely. I just got an idea of what one film might be on your list, and it's one that's come up quite regularly on the show, if it's what I think it is. But I won't give it away. But there's a really scary one out there that I'm thinking of now. But yeah, Silent Hill, it's wonderful though. Like, I really enjoy it. There's some really great moments in it, and it's really sad. It's a really sad movie as well. Just like the girl and her trauma and stuff like that. And everyone just trying to stop her.
Yes, and I think you touched on a great point, which at the heart of like this whole movie is like the trauma that girl goes through. So yeah, good point, James. Well made.
It's a common thread, it seems, children and trauma, but yeah, it's a great film.
Yeah.
Nice one. What's number 3?
Number 3 is a little old independent film made in 1978. I'm sure you can guess what it is.
Oh, is it one of my favorites of all time? Is it Alien?
Oh no, it's not. Sorry, that probably wasn't enough to go.
Oh, that's 70. That's 79. Halloween.
Halloween, the original.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, Alien 79, Halloween 78. My bad. Great.
Just an absolute classic. I think like there's so much that's like iconically scary about this, and I think like the genius of like just having that mask, which was probably like the cheapest prop ever.
The Will Shatner mask.
Yeah, but I think like a testament to this film is like, I mean, how old's that now? 40 odd years.
44 years old, yeah.
And like the jump scares while he's like, I watched it semi recently, and there's a scene when what are the characters' names? I did make a note of them here. Bob and Linda, like after they have sex.
Oh, yeah.
And then Bob goes downstairs and
he's wearing the mask. He's wearing the thing over his head or whatever. He's like, is he pretending to be a ghost?
Oh, yeah, exactly. And then like Mike Myers like just like pins him to the wall with a knife.
Yeah,
which is so brutal. And I think just before that is the death in the car, which again is like pretty freaking brutal. And then when Mike Myers then goes upstairs and basically like messes with Linda, like he's got the mask on.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and I think he strangles her with a phone cable, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal. That's a rough film. That whole franchise is maybe some of the most brutal. Has some of the most brutal killings. Like, people talk about, I think Jason's got the highest body count, but I think Michael has the most violent body count. Like, it's pretty full on. Like, it's just a guy with his bare hands just crushing people.
Oh, yeah, and then culminating in the the home invasion scene,
Mm.
the sort of final sequence of the film, when I don't know if there's anything as terrifying, and I'm sort of jumping ahead through a lot of that, when they've like quote unquote killed him, and Jamie Lee Curtis is in the foreground, and Mike Myers does that iconic thing where he just like sits up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is just like that just gives me nightmares to this day.
Yeah, it is such an iconic look. Like again, like I talked so much about how I'm a Jason guy, and that hasn't changed. I am, but like there's something like Jason looks cool. Michael Myers is terrifying.
Mm.
Like he just this hulking mass that just it moves without stopping. Like he's like an immovable object that just keeps coming after you. Like no matter how many times he gets shot, no matter how many times he gets pushed down, no matter how many times he gets beaten up with bats, like he just gets back up.
Mm.
And
And
that's what's so terrifying.
the other thing I love about that franchise, and correct me if I'm wrong, because again, I haven't seen those kind of like original sequels, but like there's no explanation to the type of evil that he is. I mean, he's just a kid who goes and like stabs his sister, gets put into that asylum, and then is just pure evil from then on out.
Yeah, the first one it's left very ambiguous, and then some of the sequels later on make it that he's Laurie's brother. So like that's what they did in the Rob Zombie films as well. But the new versions have kind of erased that, and they're like, no, 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 there's no relationship there at all. Like they're not related. She's just a girl that he has terrorized for 40 years, which is scarier, I think. Like it's kind of like you can do the Skywalker thing and make everyone related, and that's fine. Like continuity is great, and that crossover is wonderful as well. But there's something very scary about no, he just wants to kill her. And he
Yeah.
has no reason for it. He doesn't know her. Just something about her. He's going to pursue her for half a century almost. That I think that's pretty scary. And you can't talk about Halloween without talking about the soundtrack. Like,
Absolutely.
like that song is great, but I also think of just the dun dun dun, like just the single like bass notes on that piano, like as things start to get a little bit unnerving.
And perfectly built up that film. Like, even though the bits I've touched on have been mainly like the denouement of the film, where he's like actually killing everyone. The bit where he's just driving around town in that station wagon, stalking them, is fucking terrifying.
Yeah, it's great, and that flick holds up. But that is a movie that is 44 years old and works just as well today as it probably I imagine it did 44 years ago. It utterly watchable is a phrase I use a lot.
There's a video floating around. I'd imagine it's on YouTube, and it's like someone's filmed like people's reactions in the cinemas in like when they would have seen it in 1978, and I guess how sensitive the viewers would have been to a movie like that. I mean, we're pretty desensitized. Like you can kind of get a sense when a jump scare is coming or something like that, but like that would have been like it's just people like screaming at the screen. It would have been absolutely terrifying to see when that first came out.
Yeah, absolutely. But no, I love that movie. And I think it's one of the stronger franchises. Like I know some people don't like the sequels after Laurie leaves. Like people hated Halloween 3 for the longest time, but it seems to be a bit of a resurgence now. People love that movie. I only watched it for the first time last year, and Halloween 3 is genius. Has nothing to do with the rest of the franchise, but it's great. And then when they replaced the Laurie story with I can't remember the actress's name now, but there's a different character that kind of stepped in, and she became the focus. People had mixed feelings about that, and then they brought her back for Halloween H2O and Halloween Resurrection. So it's been kind of a bit up and down, but I think most of the films are pretty watchable and pretty enjoyable. There's not really a film in there that I would write off and say I'd never watch it again. Like H2O is one of the weaker ones, I would say. Like I've had people like tell me how much they love the one. It's one that I don't go in for as much, but there's still things to enjoy in it. Yeah, I think the reason I think my biggest problem with that film was I think it was rated M, so they really toned down what that franchise is supposed to be. Whereas I'm like, no, just lean into it. Like, just do the thing that you're best at.
Yeah. And so If you're asking me who does number 2 work
I was going to
for,
ask you who does number 2 work for.
Hereditary.
Yeah, that's what I thought was going to come up.
Yeah. Now, this is a film that I was not even aware of until doing a podcast with you many years ago. I mean, it can't have been more than 4, but we'll say a few years ago. And you had told me that you went and saw this film at the cinema where something so shocking happened, you just could not believe it. I think you even mentioned you need to go for a walk afterwards.
I've told this story on the podcast a few times now as well, like on this podcast where I think I told it to Tyler and Harley. I was just like, I had to go for a walk afterwards, yeah.
Yeah. And you really intrigued me. I was like, James's thing is horror. Like, what is it that's happened that would shock James this much? So I went and got a copy immediately from iTunes, and yeah, what a terrifying
remote joke.
What a terrifying film.
Yeah.
It's Ari Aster, is that the director?
Sure is. A director of one of my favorite films of all time, Midsommar.
Midsommar, again, another like classic film. And I honestly, I don't know which one. I think this is the scarier film. I think maybe Midsommar is probably a film I enjoy a little bit more.
Isn't that weird? I enjoy Midsommar, like, because I feel the same way. I'm like, I enjoyed that film, but like, there's some pretty brutal, horrible stuff in that.
Yeah.
But I think Hereditary is so relentlessly bleak.
I think bleak is. I think you used the word bleak. I think you were talking about it with the guys last week, and like, bleak is the word. I mean, I suppose it's not even a film that gets particularly scary until the last 20 or 30 minutes.
That's an interesting look
so
at it.
I would say that it's more like a family drama up until that point.
So interesting that that's your approach to it, because I actually think it's scary until the last 30 minutes.
Oh, really? I would say,
and not scary, and I'm not scary in as much as like I can't sleep at night and I'm looking in the shadows and stuff. But for me, it's so like I talked about this. I've talked about every time this movie's come up on the show. I've talked about it. It's a movie about a family who do not love each other. Like they do, they hate each other, and the only thing keeping them together really is that girl. And she's not doing a very good job of keeping them together, but she's about all they have in common. And once she, spoilers, dies, that's it for that family. And that's a common thread in Ari Aster's films, because even Midsommar, like, there is a girl in pain in the middle of that film, and no one wants to help her. She's just a pain to them. But there's no love in that family. And I'm not saying like, oh, families that don't love each other are scary, but at the same time, it's like the most horrible thing that could happen to you probably ever has happened, and you guys, like, you're just pushing each other further, like it's so upsetting. And it's just like it's real world scary, and it's not horror. It's not I'm finding a really hard way to, I guess, explain what I'm saying, but I guess it's almost like the same thing with the strangers. It's unnerving. It's unsettling. It's under your skin. It's like, why? Why can't you? Why do you have to be so unpleasant to each other? Like, why do you have to turn on each other? Like, this is the reason. The only reason things go the way they do in that film is because you could not band together. Like, you could not, like, work together to mend the hurt there. But anyway, I think that's what's scary about it, because I also think that that's the kind of thing that can happen to anyone, like where a family can be destroyed by selfishness and the unwillingness to try and mend, kind of mend wounds and stuff like that. Whereas the last 30 seconds, to me, I was like, this is so ridiculously bonkers. Thank you for giving me something to laugh at. Like, I don't think it's intended to be funny. But it's so over the top and a completely different film to the rest of the movie, where it's like, oh, this is so welcome, thank you. Like, I need to see a.
See, that's so funny. Where I mean, I don't disagree with you about how unsettling the first 90 minutes of that film is. I absolutely don't disagree with you, and I think the choices that Ari Aster makes to reveal what happens to the daughter is like
the
iconic.
ants will haunt me forever. the ants will I still can't get that image out of my head.
Oh yeah, I mean, to me, and it's weird talking about this as something that, like, I would say I admire as a filmmaking choice because of its subject matter is so horrific.
Is it the red light and him just his shocked expression in the rearview mirror?
No, it's
That's upsetting
actually
as well.
It's actually the camera that stays on him while he's in bed in the morning, and you just
the scream.
hear Toni Collette kind of like going about her morning and just sort of like not knowing anything's happening, and then just going out to the car and obviously finding what would be the most horrific thing to find that you could ever think of, which we don't need to spoil and talk about on the podcast. But so it is so bleak, it's so depressing, but I also, where I differ, and maybe that's a sensitivity thing to horror, is like I found the last like 10 minutes or so where he wakes up in the dark in the house, truly terrifying. There's Toni Collette coming out of like the shadows in the corner on the roof, who's been possessed by Hyman at this point. There's him kind of running, and then I don't know if you're familiar with this. There's a scene where he sort of comes down into the main part of the house, and like again a very similar shot to that one I was talking about in The Strangers, where one of the naked cult members just sort of like comes out of the shadows and culminating the race up to the attic, where Toni Collette then uses a piano wire to saw her own head off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not the first person in that family to lose their head as well. Like, it is really, but I think because she's like flying around and like it just like it, like, don't get me wrong, it's terrifying. Like, it is, but it's just like, oh, at least it's not, that whole bleak, horrible drama we were enduring. At least something kind of weird's happening. And aren't there like bodies in the attic or something? Like, aren't there dead bodies? Like, was it Gabrielle Byrne had bodies in the attic or?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I can't remember. Like, look, I'll be honest, it's a film I'll probably never watch again. Look, I just don't. I don't need to go back and be that upset. Like, and that is a compliment, I think, to the film. Like, you did your job. You went out to scare people, and because of what you've done, I will never watch that film again. Not a bad film. I don't hate it. I'm not disappointed. I'm not saying no one should watch it. Like, if you want to watch like a scary film, that will scare you. But like, it's on my like wish list on like one of my Blu-ray sites, and every time I look at it, I'm like, do I really wish I had this film? Probably not. Like, as a completionist, that's the only reason I would pick it up, but I just don't see myself ever watching that movie again. It's just, it did exactly what horror aims to do, which is to kind of make you feel things you never want to feel.
Yeah, and I think like he's created a couple of moments that I will never forget, and I think that's also a trademark of a really great horror film. Is like the same goes for like that shot in The Strangers. Same goes for like Mike Myers sitting up after he's supposed to be dead. It's like I will never forget a couple of those moments in Hereditary. So yeah, great film. Goddamn scary one as well.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Ari Aster, for doing that to us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, which brings me to my number one film. I'm just curious. I mean, we're kind of at the pointy end now. So, do you have any idea what you think this will be?
Well, here's the thing. Did you? Is this in order of scariness for you, or you're just like, these are 5 films I've so
no, this is the scariest film I've ever seen. The most scared I've ever been as well.
So for you, The Strangers is the least scary film on that list.
Yes.
Interesting, because I would probably, I agree with this list as scary films.
Can I just butt in there? The reason being, don't get me wrong, this is I've talked about how scary and terrifying The Strangers is. I also think that's the easiest film to get out of. I've watched it quite recently. Strap on a nice pair of runners and sprint out of that house for the road and just keep running. You're going to get out of that alive.
Oh, in terms of if you were in the film,
yes.
To get it. I think it meant like in real life, like turn off the DVD and I just run away from my house. And I was like, okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah. Conversely, grab yourself a weapon, be a bit smarter with your placement. These are just teenagers. You could pick them off pretty easily. So, that's the rationale there moving through. So,
Okay, fair enough. Okay, I'll take that. That's a pretty good point. It's going to be tough for me because I don't like the Hereditary was number one on my list. I can't think of a film scarier than Hereditary for me. If I had to guess, like you like classic stuff, so maybe Exorcist. Although I think Exorcist, whilst very effective, still might be a bit dated for you. I'm not sure. Conjuring, I think, is definitely up there as a scary film.
neither.
Interesting.
So if you think about probably what I've spoken about is like, in fact, no, maybe I haven't made this point because this is the only. I'll start giving you some little Easter eggs here. This is the only found footage type of film.
Okay.
In my list, but like what is truly terrifying to me is like realism and thinking this could happen. And when I saw my number one film, which is the Blair Witch Project,
the original from the 90s.
Yes, yeah. 1999. It's the most scared I've ever been. In fact, I couldn't finish it. We had, this is how long ago it came out. We had hired, my brother and I had hired this on video, and at first watch I couldn't finish it. I had to bow out of the viewing as they were sort of approaching the house at the end of the film. But again, contextually, I probably didn't see this in 1999. I'm sure it was like a couple of years later, but I wasn't really aware of found footage. We didn't have social media to know that this was fake. So it's like you kind of almost want, and especially being a younger viewer, kind of not sure if it's real or not. And I swear, as I was watching that, I'm like, this is real. These mofos are dead.
Yeah.
But I think, again, the sort of semi-realism of like just some friends who I think they're making a documentary about the Blair Witch, and they go into these woods, and then from there, it's just moments that will stay with me forever. So again, I don't know how recently you've seen this, but they're camping, they're inside their tent, and then they hear these noises outside, and just someone's like pressing in on their tent from the outside. It is just fucking terrifying, James.
I haven't watched it in a little while, and I said the same thing when it was brought up recently, which is I don't criticize any film. It's every film is someone's favorite film, so therefore there are no bad films. But for me, I found Blair Witch to be quite slow, and there wasn't much of a payoff. And I think the problem I had with Blair Witch was it had been so hyped up for so long. It was like, this is one of the scariest films of all time. So when I finally watched it, I'm like, oh, all right. Like, I guess at the time, when there was no internet, there was limited internet, and it was accepted that you could lie on the internet with no consequences.
Yeah.
Because that's what it is. Like, people lied about the film and people fell for it, which is fine. Is great. Like, I'm glad that it was, because that doesn't work anymore. Like, you can't make like a found footage film and have the only way to make a found footage film these days. And I remember I was thinking about this a few years ago, because I was trying to find a way to make a horror film. And I wanted to make a horror film that I could release and be effective. I was trying to find a way to make found footage work. And the only way I think you can make found footage work now, and this is what the idea I had, was you shoot it on VHS, you shoot it on Handycam. You have to do that. And then you just upload it anonymously to YouTube. You don't do a theatrical release. There's no title scenes. There's no credits. There's no marketing for it. You just upload it to either YouTube or to just like a bare bones website and say, I found this. This is really weird. And that's how you release. And that's how you release a found. That's the only way you can release a found footage film these days and have it believable. Yeah, like the only way you could do credits is if you're like, hey, so I found this in the woods or whatever, and instead of showing the police, I'm putting it on YouTube. But I think the way you do it is you just literally put up all the raw footage, and that's how you do. That's the only way it could work these days. So again, another great idea, which has been spoiled by me revealing it to the world.
Yeah.
But at the time in the 90s, that was when you could do that sort of thing. Not the first found footage film. Everyone calls it the first found footage film. There is one that came beforehand, Cannibal Holocaust. But
yeah, but certainly my first experience.
No
with
one needs to watch
found...
Cannibal Holocaust. It's pretty brutal.
But yeah, and I think that the way, I mean, like, again, I haven't seen it for a little while, so on rewatch it might be a bit slow, but the way it's paced in terms of the scares coming along and how it builds tension, and again, I'm grasping here to remember exactly the sequence of events, but I think earlier on in the film they talk about the law of the Blair Witch, and that the Blair Witch used to punish children by making them stand in a corner, kind of thing. And so again, at the finale of the film, when they again go into the house to look for their missing friends and something's chasing them, it's so terrifying. Just remembering it now. And then one of them, the final one left alive, goes down into the basement, and then the final shot of the film is like you see one of the friends standing in the corner, and then the camera just falls to the floor. That was it, enough for me. I don't think I slept for a week after that.
I think you're selling it, like you're selling it in a way that I missed when I watched it. And I've only watched it once. I watched it in my mid-20s, back when I was way more snobby as well. So I was probably sitting with my arms crossed, be like, "Go on, impress me." But if I went back and watched it now, I'm sure there'd be some great stuff to take from it. But people love that film, so I'm certainly not criticizing. But and it sounds like your experience, especially when you're a little bit younger, that's the thing, and that's the other thing is like that you got to take into consideration age, I suppose, as well. Like if you're younger, that's gonna really play some tricks on you.
Yeah, and I think that's really what I went for with my list, is like this, like basically the most scared I've been while watching a film, or the most unsettled as well, in the case of Hereditary. So I think that there has not been a time I've been as scared as that while watching a film in my life.
That's a pretty solid list. There's some really good ones on there. There's some fun ones like Halloween. I mean, I guess that Halloween isn't fun. It's pretty fun. Like it's of the modern Hollywood monsters. He's one of the more brutal ones, but there's some fun stuff in there. And Strangers is a good one as well. Silent Hill, although has moments of bleakness, it has some fun moments as well. Like there's some interesting stuff in there. Those last two are not fun.
Yeah, there's nothing fine about that. And I mean, as we kind of mentioned when we first started talking about horror as a genre, like it's definitely not my main category. But so in terms of honorable mentions, the main one I could think of that really could have bumped a lot of these off there, but I only wanted one found footage film on there, would have been the first Paranormal Activity, because that was also terrifying.
Yeah, people like that one as well. I think, I've seen found footage. I've seen Paranormal Activity once. I don't really remember much of it. I remember it being quite slow as well. I think that's the thing. Like I think the problem with found footage for me, not the problem, but I think the reason it doesn't really gel with me is because it's meant to be like anyone's made it. I feel like they go out of their way to make it mundane. Like they're like, oh, we need to be just like, we're just moving house, or we're just doing this or whatever. Like, hey, we're gonna try, and nothing's gonna happen for a while because we're just filming the house. And I'm like, I understand that you've got to build to it and you've got to make it seem as realistic as possible, but it's also a movie. Like, make it entertaining. The exception for me is Creep, which I think I talked about a few weeks ago as well, which is a found footage film, and that's wildly entertaining and creepy from start to finish. But I should give Paranormal Activity and Blair Witch another go, and find myself shaking my little boots because I was, so mean about it today that they'll punish me the next time I watch them.
But yeah, I mean, maybe some other honorable mentions. The Babadook was pretty scary. The worst titled film I've ever seen, but I actually really enjoyed. I don't think it's a particularly popular one, but have you seen The Bye-Bye Man?
No, I haven't. I remember when that movie came out, people were making fun of the title.
Yeah, it's a stupid name.
But like I remember because they were like, I think the tagline was like, "Don't say his name," and I saw
Don't say it, don't think it.
yeah, so something like that, and there was a meme, whatever, and instead of the bye bye man, they wrote the pee pee poo poo man, and that was so funny. They're like, "Don't say it, don't think it." But yeah, I haven't seen that one, but that one's quite effective as well.
Yeah, that was just a cool concept. Yeah, and then I mean, like, there's some other classics like The Shining. I mean,
Love The Shining.
I don't really know where The Shining sits. Is that considered a horror?
Yeah, I think it's a horror.
Mm.
That's a great one. That was on Josh's list. Josh talked about The Shining.
Yeah,
Um,
and I think he had The Thing as well, didn't he?
yeah, The Thing's great also.
That's one of my top films that I've never seen. Where I know I love it, but I just like never find the time to watch it.
Yeah, and the prequel that came out in 2011 is really underrated. It's a great film.
Yeah, that's my list. That's my list. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope
That's
there was some stuff on there that you hadn't spoken about in a little while. I know there was a few kind of those mainstream ones.
I don't know if your list is that mainstream. Like the biggest film on there is probably
Halloween.
yeah, that's probably the one that people know the most, and maybe the most financially successful one is maybe Blair Witch, like because Blair Witch just exploded. But Hereditary kind of came and went in theaters. Like a lot of people didn't really know about it. The Strangers, unless you're into the genre, people don't know about, and even Silent Hill, I think. So I think there's some pretty obscure ones in there, and I haven't talked about Strangers or Silent Hill before on the show, which was good to get some love for those as well. Um, but there's so much out there. There's so much out there in the genre, and there are so many fun horror films that aren't are either not scary or not as scary that they deserve their dues as well. So I don't know whether we do a theme later on where we talk about like great horror films that anyone can watch, or whether next Halloween we just do a revisited look at Halloween movies. I'm not sure, but that was a good list, a really good list, and I'm feeling appropriately unsettled.
That's all I could ask for.
Like I've got the rest of Halloween to watch tonight. I'm like, oh, do I, or maybe do I just like whack on something a bit funnier?
Yeah. I'll definitely be doing like a Parks and Rec cool down after
this. Nice one. We do have the Halloween rapid fire. There's only I think 4 questions on it if you've got some time. And it's all monster themed. So we didn't really talk about monsters in your list, with the exception of the very human monsters in all of these movies. First of all, Nick, I just want to know what your favorite movie monster is.
Favorite movie monster? This is supposed to be rapid fire, you say?
You know how every rapid fire is the opposite of that? Yes.
Yes. I'm going to go Hellraiser, because that is the most terrifying mofo I've ever seen. And I've only seen, like, I don't know if this is sacrilege on a Halloween podcast, but it's one of those like franchises that I only ever see snippets of. I've never sat down to actually watch a movie in its entirety, but like I remember, like, that's a vivid image I've like been scared of since like Blockbuster Video,
I agree. That's a striking image. Pinhead is and the other Cenobites arguably are scarier. I've seen the first couple of, I think I've seen the first 3 of the Hellraiser films, maybe 4, because there's one where Adam Scott like plays like a British aristocrat in the 1800s or something. He's got like long hair. I think he's in Hellraiser 4. There's a new Hellraiser out. They just rebooted it, and
yes, I did see that.
Getting some pretty strong reviews, but yeah, he's a cool looking one, and no one's mentioned Pinhead yet, so I like that. That's a good shout out. Nice one. The next thing I'd like to know from you, Nick, is well, you might have the same answer. Which is the scariest movie monster?
That's just the clock ticking while I decide.
Oh,
so
I think you're gonna say like the there's like a Clockwork Man in one of the Conjuring films. I thought you were doing that.
Scariest movie monster. I'm going to go the Blair Witch, even though you don't see the Blair Witch until that sequel that you. No, did I see that with you at the cinema? I don't know.
I haven't seen, because there's two sequels. There's Book of Shadows, which came out in the early 2000s, and the one in 2015, which you told me was terrifying.
Yeah, it was, but like you see the Blair Witch, and it's like it ruined it for me. So I'm just gonna go the Blair Witch. I think just as a logical choice, as that was the most scared I've ever been.
Yeah, sure. That's good. I think, the effectiveness of a monster is how much if you think about Michael Myers in Halloween, if you think about the xenomorph in Alien, like the scariest part is when you don't see them. All right, this is a bit of a fun one. If you could pick two movie monsters to have them fight, just like Freddy and Jason, who would you pit against each other?
Okay, well, Michael Myers would be one as a default. I'm going to stick to my list, and I am going to pit Michael Myers against the three teenagers from The Strangers.
It's like a Super Smash Brothers matchup. I like that. That's great. And they're all wearing masks, so it's there's a theme there. I dig that. And this is the silliest question on the rapid fire, Nick. We're going to take a movie monster and give them a terrible sequel. As we know, the most common themes for a terrible horror sequel is we're going to take a monster and put them in space, in Hawaii, or in the future. So which monster are you taking and where are you putting them?
I'm going to take Jack Nicholson from The Shining. Can't think of his character's name. And I'm going to put him... Yes, I'm going to put him in Hawaii. On a tropical beach.
Maybe he'll be more chilled out.
What a great question, though.
Because that cold isolation drove him nuts. But if he's got a little cabana by the sea, and he's got a mojito in one hand, and he's getting palm fronds and stuff, he might have a grand old time.
Yeah, shout out to Scatman Carruthers,
yes,
who drove all those miles to get an axe in the freaking chest.
That's I don't know if you've read the book The Shining, but he does not die in the book. I think he makes it to the sequel, at least for a little bit.
There you go.
So it was an interesting choice to kill him off in that movie, and to work so hard just to cop an axe straight away. I'm sure it wasn't deliberately designed to play for laughs, but it's pretty amusing the way that
it's pretty funny. I'm curious. I'm sorry if I've missed an episode where you answered any of those questions, but did you have a scariest monster?
I can't remember what I said. I think my favorite and scariest were the same, and I know for my favorite, I said the xenomorph from Aliens. The xenomorph to me is the coolest looking monster. I've used the word elegant a lot on this podcast to describe its design, but I stand by it. I don't think there's a better killing machine than the alien, the xenomorph. And I think if I had to face that in a dark alley at night, that would be terrifying to me, more than any other monster. It is designed for one thing, and that is to kill. So much so that it has two mouths to eat you. And it moves silently, it is fast and quiet. Whereas most movie monsters, especially of the 80s era, are slow. They might be quiet, but they're also quite slow. You can outrun Jason and Michael, whereas you can't do that with the xenomorph.
That's true, but I'll also play devil's advocate and say that if I was to run into a xenomorph, I'd expect to just be dead within 5 seconds because it's just primary urges to hunt in and kill you. Whereas these others just there's a lot of those other monsters are their game seems to be toying with you, And it's you got to live out a terrifying night before they actually get you.
I mean, I wish I had remembered the little girl from Strangers, because that would be my scariest monster. Just every time I ask a question, because you were home, I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, I know.
Why didn't you do the dishes? Because you were home. Okay, fair enough. Nice one. That was a fantastic list. I loved all your answers. That was good fun. We're going to wrap up in a moment for the episode. But before we do, I'm going to do a bit of a plug. I know we've been talking a lot about fandom and the movies we love. So let's talk once again about Scream, the fan favorite. You might have heard us drop Harley and Tyler's name once or twice in this episode. they've got an Indiegogo campaign. They're raising money to make their dreams come true, or their nightmares come true. There's a little horror movie pun for you. I can see your disappointment. That's fine. Follow them on Instagram. They're posting some great content. Tyler just got pied in the face recently because they hit a fundraising goal. It was very amusing. So you can go and go to their Instagram and see all those fun videos. You can jump on Indiegogo, just search "Scream the Fan Favorite." $5. That's where it starts. You can to contribute to making a movie as little as $5. It's very easy to do. And if you can't afford to make a donation, that's fine. Just like it, share it, get the word out there. Their campaign's running through all of October, and then they start shooting in November. Like they are, they're going to be full steam ahead. They were like, we want to come back.
The rubbers meet in the road, my friend.
That's it. They were like, we want to come back on the show as soon as possible. I was like, don't you guys have a movie to make? I mean, I'll take you back, but I said to them, I'm like, we won't interrupt your shooting schedule. Go give them a like, go give them a shout out, go give them some money. It's all for a good cause, and you can help make a movie. That's pretty cool. Excellent. I want to thank Nick for returning yet again and help celebrate the 30th episode with me. It's always a pleasure to have you on the show, my friend.
Yeah, thanks for having me back, and looking forward to the next list, whatever it may be.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because I was going to go 90s, but I realized that November is a short month, and then we're going to be all the way into Christmas. So we may have some random episodes throughout November.
Yeah. I'd be interested to see what we can do this Christmas, because I feel like we've done a top 5 for Christmas before.
Well, I know that I have a plan. I won't reveal all of it, but there's a guest I want to bring back, and I said, why don't we bring you and with permission, if you want to, you and your children on, and we can talk about Christmas movies as like a family episode. So that's one thing I've got planned. That may or may not go ahead. So if you're waiting, if you're hanging out for that one, there's no guarantees. Also, I will drop a little Easter egg. Harley was in a Christmas movie, and I would love to have her come back and talk about that. She was in a Christmas movie last year. Might have given the game away there. If she listens to this, she'll be like, "No, we're not talking about that." But I would love to talk. Not because it's embarrassing, just because I think actors sometimes don't always want to talk about their work. But I would love to talk about that, especially considering one of the cast members was quite famous when I was a child. So I'm sure there's some pretty good stories there. But yeah, we'll figure something out. Maybe we'll just debate whether Die Hard is or isn't a Christmas film the whole time, and the answer is yes, it is.
Well, we can do that. We can have one of our digital jazz episodes where we just start with that topic and just chat.
Digital jazz. We never did your topic. I know we're wrapping up the show, but we never talked about activist movie star, I don't think, so that's still coming as well.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, that does it for this week's episode. It was a very long outro, but hey, it's pretty short for a Nick episode because we go on for hours. Thank you, Nick, for coming back. We'll definitely have you on very soon. Go check out Scream the Fan Favorite online when you can. And as I say every week, I was a teenage film snob, but I'm trying to be better. We'll see you next week.